Design excels at the beginning. We celebrate the launch, the unboxing, and the arrival, and the upgrade to something new. But when it comes to endings, when things age, break down, wear, or stop serving us, design often falls silent. That silence is what I set out to challenge. Hi, I'm Zai Thakoor, and my thesis is called Rethinking Endings from Ownership to Stewardship. It explores what happens to objects we own when their usefulness fades and how we might design those ends. So, how do we define these endings? Growing up in India, I experienced repair not as a choice, but as a natural response. Shoes were resold, buttons reattached, fabrics reworked into something new. It wasn't just a technical fix, but a practice of continuation, memory, and resilience. It was a way to value something we already had and acknowledge the labor embedded in our belongings. Ria Gokuru summarizes this really well. Most Indian households utilize everything and unfamiliar with the concept of waste. Even choosing to call it waste brings in a bias, viewing it as a problem to solve rather than a resource. But as the world globalizes, we often look westward for how systems are built. So I arrived here curious to understand how people make these decisions around what's worth keeping. To unpack these decisions, I mapped a product's journey from an initial need to purchase and use. But once something breaks, we continue to use and troubleshoot till we reach the space where we evaluate whether this thing still belongs in our life. And at this evaluation stage, I found the most complexity, where guilt, effort, and uncertainty intersect. I spoke to several subject experts that work in the space of transition, a death doula, a mender, a taxidermist, to further understand how they parallelly look at ends as a means to begin. When spoken to a communications theory expert, he says the thrill of buying often fades quickly, and we're left with these impersonal interactions instead of thoughtful closure. And having a death doula's perspective was equally fascinating, as she mentions how there's no space nor vocabulary to discuss mixed feelings about people, places, and objects. It's almost like we feel the fray but don't know how to name it. So to make space, I hosted a mending workshop where I invited people to bring in a garment with a hole in it, and we spent an hour giving it a second chance. What surprised me was how that single fray became a catalyst to talk about people's relationship with repair. I wanted to memorialize these small acts of care, so I invited participants to stitch new labels onto old garments, turning everyday mends into markers of pride. And in the workshop, stories of repair began to surface, often unprompted, but it was always personal. It's like there was this quiet pride in remembering what had been fixed and who fixed it. So I began collecting these stories as repair recipes. Repair recipes invites users to browse stories of repair and share what they fixed and how they did it and what it meant to them. From stories about broken cameras to wooden chairs, these are real recipes produced from my workshop. It's part instructional, part emotional, almost this hybrid between a how-to and a mini memoir. So why an archive? I feel stories offer recognition, relatability, and reward. They create this feedback loop of, I could do that too. And archiving invites this slow browsing and values these imperfections. And recipes, this typology has always turned one person's action into a shared resource for others. But despite the sense of pride, repair still isn't people's first instinct. It's often an afterthought. What I kept hearing was this sense of conflict. People want to repair, but they feel stuck between the guilt and the guesswork. You don't know where to go, how much it'll cost, or whether this object is even worth saving. And that uncertainty, more often than not, leads to abandonment. Which led me to ask, how might we make repair easier to act on? Not as a moral obligation, but as a clear and supported choice. So, I designed REAP, a tool that helps users understand repair options, costs, and timelines before they give up on an object. Think of it as resi for repair because uncertainty always breeds delay. First, you scan the item, you add key details about the object, and then Reap generates a transparent code and connects you to trusted repair services, making repair an easier and a supported choice. This intervention provides instant repair codes and vendor matching via WhatsApp for businesses by eliminating the uncertainty that discourages repair. And by creating a structured way to estimate and manage repair jobs, it was important that I create value on both ends. Reap also functions as a plugin embedded at the point of purchase, but also at the post sale journey. It offers proactive transparency around costs by directly connecting users to local repair options. But again, care doesn't stop at collective tools. While Reap supports decision making at scale, I was interested to know how people might carry care forward on their own. What happens when support ends? That's when individual effort comes into focus. When people do decide to repair, I feel like their next step is usually the internet. They start searching for inspiration, but more often than not, what they find is often messy, inconsistent, and a little underwhelming. And to address this information overload, I designed So. It's simple. You log in a repair, you get guidance, and decide whether to DIY or get expert help. The, it essentially focuses on bridging the intention action gap and builds habits around self repair, and also aggregates information across the internet. The app guides you through the process, offering method suggestions based on type of tear and material, and your confidence around self repair. Then it creates a task and tells you how much you saved by choosing to fix. It then guides you through a step-by-step instruction and gamifies the task by adding light rewards and make repair feel more satisfying and doable. And for those who want to take mending offline, So also delivers the physical tools for it. Stitch stands and stencils help mine minor rips and burns with care and visibility. To test this product, my friend brings me her favorite sweater. It's soft, worn in, with a little hole near her cuff. And instead of sealing it shut, I reinforced the tear without erasing the story that it carried. The hole is still there, but now it's sturdy and visible and proudly a part of my friend's garment. And because repair is a practice best shared, I pass the kit on, so the next mend is hers. Even with the right tools and clear guidance, repair still requires something less visible, its intention. Which led me to my bigger question. What's a person's threshold threshold to repair, or perhaps maintain? This also made me wonder, where do we silently part ways with our clothes? It was the laundromat. And the laundromat to me is a sacred space of transition where things go in messy and come out renewed. And I wanted to intervene there during the wait, rinse, and spin. Time acted in my favor. The rinse and spin cycles became natural containers for reflection. And during these rinse cycles, participants wrote care pacts and their personal intentions about their garment and came back to me during their dry cycle to reflect. While people expressed relief, voicing why they never wore a piece again, others expressed guilt about not knowing how to fix something. But the most common feeling was this desire to keep caring, only if someone gave them a place to start, and the laundromat gave them the permission. It really made me think about care not just as a one time act, but as a spectrum, one that varies by context, access, and mindset. So I put these all on a care continuum, from tools that support personal habits to community based reflections to systems that enable care at scale. Because sustaining care requires more than effort. It requires support, story, and structure. So I'll end with this. If brands give up on you post sale, what do you do now? These interventions are my response. They're not answers, but options. And care, after all, begins with a choice. So thank you so much to everyone that helped me get here. I'm Zai Thakoor. And if you have a favorite repair story, I'm all yours. Thank you.
The language, a care continuum, uncertainty always breeds delay. And you start, design excels at the beginning. I just love that this project is first today to start at the beginning with the end. So there were so many places where you could have focused, but you focused on garments. Can you tell us a little bit more about that decision?
Sure. I think it took me more than 6 months of like the first semester and the summer to really narrow down and sort of like with this process of elimination. Clothes also felt like the easiest entry point emotionally with care because it's just people need to be remembered that they care about their clothes. It's just that, and it was easy to build that innate care, um, and not build it from scratch.
Yeah, and the raw material or the contextual material, the laundromat, I just think is so brilliant. I think I noticed someone said that, this hoodie's known me so long, or knows everything about me, and then I thought it was just like it knows too much about me. That's an interesting place where people are hanging on to clothes that well, you had said about this uncertainty and it delays. This project needs to keep going, or I want it to keep going. Can it? And do you have in mind any next steps?
That's the plan, hopefully. I think the I found a lot of value in testing my ideas and testing these out in the real world. So I want to continue doing that. And yeah, I think Reap is a two-sided marketplace. Speaking to repair shops, people that repair, I think that's what's given me the idea to make this close to real. And I hope to get further there.
We talked about you having your sewing kit at the lobby for the break, but we forgot to tell people to bring something to mend.
I'm taking orders.
There you go. Thank you, Zai.
Thanks.